The dataset and the data frame. As before, we have already talked about the dataset and the data frame, but here I wanted to bring this up since it will be so important for us to set up these ideas as we work on datasets in this class. So the dataset is usually a single or multiple digital files, which may or may not contain all the necessary data that we need for the specific tasks at hand. Usually, it does not contain all the necessary data unless we have already created it as such or combined different data sets, or we generated the data itself given the information that we were looking for. So when you're looking for a secondary data that is already available, collected by somebody else for your own purposes, you will need to combine different data sets, and that is part of the activities that we do in data analytics. The two most common data set formats are CSV, comma separated values, which look like this on the right over here. They are the essentially table-like format, two-dimensional formats of rows of instances and columns of attributes. But note that when they are saved in this text format, which is a very simple, very light format, if you open it in a text editor, it may look something like this, and you can actually edit it if you need to change a value or something. But you got to be very careful not to mess up your data, because one little comma, if you miss a comma somewhere, you're going to screw up the whole data. This is comma separated value, so comma is very important to separate the value. If you lose a comma, you will modify a value somewhere potentially. And the other format is JSON, JavaScript object notation, and we took a look at that as well. So those are the two common formats we're going to be using in this class, and you're going to be seeing in other data analytic activities. Often we can import these data into spreadsheet applications like Microsoft Excel. Note that when we do that, we always want to use the import function. Import function, we never want to double click on it. Do not double click. Do not double click the CSV file to open with Excel. And that's because the Excel already makes all kinds of assumptions and manipulations on the data. You can see, look over here. You see this, it changes certain characters to a certain way. It may truncate certain numbers. It already processes the data. So if you want to double click on something and open it, first always open with a plain, simple text editor. Text editor. And if you want to open with a program like Microsoft Excel, always use the import function, which lets you inspect how each attribute is processing the specific data type. Mostly in this class, we're going to be working with the data frames, and we're going to upload it into Python. So we won't be working with Excel very much, and we do that, and then we also via an import function like a read.csv function, and we take that and we put it into a variable, which is the data frame variable. Often we call it df, but you can call it other things, and that leads to if you're working with a CSV file, leads to a very readable and understandable structure in this two-dimensional matrix like this. And we can also convert. You can also convert JSON to this kind of data, but it depends on the original JSON structure, and that could make it your activity more or less difficult. Let's remember the data frame description. So this is a description of what each feature means, what each variable means. And this is often not part of the data file itself, but part of the metadata. Okay, so this doesn't often come with the same file, it's a separate file or separate source of information. But it's very important so we know what the things mean. What's pop 2000? Is soda 2000? Is it population? What's pop change? How is pop change measured? Is the population change from 2010 to 2017 or 2016 to 2021 and so on? So each feature needs to have a kind of explanation of what it was and how it was collected and how it's measured. In Pythons, there is some two basic data structures that we're going to be working with. And this is a little bit more elevated than the data type. So we call this a data structure. Data structure. And that's because it's a little bit more complex than just the simple either string, piece of string, or piece of number. And the series is kind of like a table of one column. And we have an index here, which identifies the number of rows. And then we have the name of the series and then the values. So it's kind of like a data frame of one row in a way. And there are all kinds of functions associated with the series for manipulating the series. And you need to be aware of whether your data is a series or if it's a data frame or if it's a list, and that's different as well, because that's a list is another data structure of Python. And the list though doesn't have a column and an index. It's just a list of numbers or things. And we'll have some more exercise for you to work with the different data structures. And then the other one, the big one, the big daddy of the data structures in Python and Pandas is the data frame. And the data frame is, as we have worked on before, two-dimensional matrix, two-dimensional table of rows of instances and columns of features. And there can be any number of features and any number of rows or any number of instances. And there are many ways to manipulate, to query, to identify pieces of information, to analyze them, to combine them, to remove them, and so on. And here's just some kind of a few references to some of the commands, some of the functions. So for example, .lock. So for example, df, assuming that our data frame is called df. We uploaded the CSV into a data frame called df, and then we can do df.ilock, meaning identify the location or identify the role. And then if you do that, use this function to this data, you would get this result here to Tiger Bob. If you want just a specific feature, then you might do df.ilock5, but the column, look how we refer to the column with a bracket, square brackets, and then quotes animals, because that's the name here. And then if you just do df square brackets owners is the name of this column here, then you would get this whole list. You would get, probably you get a series as a return. So sometimes when we are manipulating Pandas data frame, it returns a series depending on what the command was. So you have to know if your result is just a value, like a string. Your results can be a series. Your result maybe can be a dictionary or a list. I don't know if this would result as a dictionary or a list. You got to double check, which are the other two important data structures. I said list before, list, and the last one is dictionary. I promise. I don't think there are going to be any more. Or the result can be another data frame. And I'm going to have some exercise for you to work on data frame. And we're going to be working a lot with data frame in this class. So I see you next time. That's it for this one.